Game day at Boise High is more than a tradition. It's a heartbeat. Through decades of change, one thing has remained: the pride of putting on that uniform and representing something bigger than yourself. Game day is a big part of the museum, and I feel like sports have always been at the center of high school. No matter what high school you attended, there's always been sports. It creates camaraderie, competition, all of the elements you want a student to have upon graduation, pride in themselves, a sense of accomplishment. So game day to me really resonates those stories.
As we look at the high school experience for students, there's different facets of that. And athletics is a huge piece of that for so many kids. We have so many kids. The reason they come to school is so that they can play whatever it is, and that may be football, that may be swimming. And on the flip side of it, if we talk about activities, it's playing the tuba, So we are an institution that believes in educating the whole child. And a piece of that is that athletic experience.
The sports culture at Boise High was a blessing to me. Fortunately, I got to coach football for 2 years, but I realized football coaches generally don't stay put. I wanted to stay put. So anyway, but I was coaching track and I coached the discus, and I had phenomenal kids over the years. They always had a tradition of really enjoying the athletics, not so much as to have to be a win all the time, but be able to participate.
And Boise High, I have to say, I've been very proud of, has had not only boys sports, as we started in 1881, but we've also had girls sports from a very early age. They were non-sanctioned sports, but we had a girls basketball team in 1910. We've had girls tennis for a long time. And so I feel that we call them the Lady Braves, that we have a special section just for the Lady Braves at our game day, because for the most part of history, sports was dominated by boys until Title IX came into play. And our drill team really kind of stood in for the girls' sports opportunity as a sanctioned function at the school. The overall game day spotlights our traditional sports, our football and our soccer and our baseball, and the banners and the team pictures and the trophies that exist over there. The Letterman's jackets are probably one of my favorite things because they're one of the most personal. So as Letterman's jackets are donated to us, we have a rack over there that has many of them on there. And for each one of them that was donated, we have a picture of their senior photo, what sport they played, the different sports they lettered in. Some are multiple sports players, and then the icons that are on their sleeves as the change of the mascot happened over time. So those jackets to me really tell individual personal stories, and the look on the people's faces when they come down and want to bring that to us and tell us their stories about game day is it just brings so much joy and recognition to their lives as being a part of Boise High.
Another section that we have is the Bee Club, and that was formed in the early 1900s, and it was made up of athletes that were able to complete a full season of a varsity sport, and they received a capital B that they wore on their sweaters. Initially, they wore Letterman sweaters that were burgundy, and then they transitioned into the red wool jackets with the off-white leather sleeves in the 1960s. The main criteria was that they had to complete a varsity sport in a full season, and they could compete in multiple sports. The main focus of the Bee Club was to promote teamwork and, of course, sportsmanship. And they also did a lot of community service projects, and they also sponsored the Bee Club formal in December.
Before I became a teacher at Boise High, I taught out at Eagle High, and I would see these Beat Bora t-shirts, and I had no context for what they belonged to. But the minute I was inducted as to a Boise teacher at Boise High, it immediately became obvious that this was the rivalry of all rivalries. And so Boise High is the oldest school in the district, and Bora was the next one to come into existence in 1958. And that has been the ongoing, over time, overzealous rivalry between the two schools. And it's created so much humor and so much competition. And each has had their moment in the sun. Boise High did win state champion in football. So we do have some bragging rights in 1980. And we have some exhibits that specifically denote that. We've also got cartoons out of the Statesman, and we have funny stories and many things on display. We have a special section that is just the Boise-Bora rivalry. Because of all of the teams that we play across the valley, Bora is the one to beat.
So Boise High was the only public high school in Boise City from 1903 to 1958. And at that time, the Nampa Bulldogs were the football rival. And then in 1958, Bora High School opened, and they became the crosstown rival. We actually have the first program from the first Boise-Bora game in October of 1958.
They were always beating us, and we'd try, and we'd have rallies, and we'd do the whole 9 yards. So here it was, the year after I graduated, my younger sister was graduating that year. The year after that, they were going to open Capitol High School. So it would be the last time that Bora could have a clean sweep, beat Boise all the way through. Well, that year, Boise High won the last year, and I, to this day, think about how disappointed those cheerleaders were. They deserve it, by golly. So that's the Beat Bora story as far as I know.
One of the things that I love when I see people in this museum, and especially when they walk over to the sports section, and oftentimes people, they don't come alone. They've brought their spouse, or they're bringing their children or their grandchildren. And as they're looking at something, it's so cool to watch the family members who have heard the stories see the imagery. Because in your mind's eye, in your memory, you remember what it felt like to run that ball into the end zone, or you remember what it felt like, to be part of that team, to be coached by that individual. And you may have shared that with others, but to be able to share it at this level with the visual representations of it. And I think that there's something to be said for just walking down memory lane and seeing the actualization of it in front of you as you're doing it.
The game day part of the museum is probably the best storytelling part of the museum, because families come down together and they are so proud of their involvement, whether it was in basketball or football or baseball, hockey, soccer, tennis, wrestling. And the uniforms bring back memories and the stories of how hard one challenge was over another. That is really where the pride of Boise High shines, in hearing those stories, and they're eager to tell them to their wives and their kids. And many of their students are second and third generation players of the very same sport that their parent or grandparent comes down to share with them.
I've watched people as they're talking with those that they bring in. Or even there was a couple of gentlemen one day, and both of them were here at the same time. They were obviously high school buddies. And, do you remember this? Do you remember that? Oh my gosh. Do you remember? And then they go into, wow, do you remember what we did afterwards when we went to, but they just having that imagery, I think actually unlocks some of the memories. And more importantly, it unlocks the feelings tied to it. And that's what's really cool to watch.
Having it so you can go through and see and get a sense of it, instead of just, there's that, I wonder what that article was. I wonder, that's an interesting bit of something, It really does give you a sense of, as I was mentioning earlier, the opportunities that education gives to our future, to our kids. you just take it for granted, you know? We just take all this stuff for granted.
The scoreboard may reset every year, but the spirit never fades. Come walk through Boise High's game day legacy at the Boise High Museum.